All right. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Tea and Conversation live on by popular demand. Yes, I am excited this evening, family. I have with me Mr. Jake Powell, which is a really good friend of mine, and he is uh, has been through Tea and Conversation a number of times. He is the state committee man for Florida Young Republicans, also the political director for the Smart and Safe. What is that? Smart and
The
Safe.
pack, yeah, campaign, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Good to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing real good, real good. Getting ready for tea and conversation in person on this Saturday and getting everybody all excited about November election and also trying to educate people on Amendment 3. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on to talk to us a little bit about Amendment 3. I had someone on last evening. So I just want to get another perspective on Amendment 3. I know we've had it on the ballot in the past, and
Mm.
it's on the ballot again. Could you, for one, if you want to give us a little bit about what you've been doing prior to coming up to Amendment 3, and then let us know what is going on in our community with Amendment 3, and just tell us about Amendment 3.
Sure. So, people that don't know me, my background is I run a digital media company. I've been doing this for about 8 years or so. We actually, our main focus is working with athletes. So we mostly work with UFC fighters, NFL players, boxers. We do fitness training, things like that. But I get into politics. And so, running the Tampa Bay Young Republicans organization here for many years, I people see what we can do with digital media and everything, and so and they saw what we could do. I ran for state house in South Tampa, so people saw what we could do with some of the commercials we made and the digital media that we were doing. And so I've been asked numerous times now to help out with different campaigns, different capacities, helping out different candidates and issues. And so the Smart and Safe campaign is to vote yes on Amendment 3, to legalize marijuana. And as you may know, that's not the most popular thing with Republicans, and I am very Republican. And so they essentially asked me to come on and work to help bring Republicans to this cause, because that's the group that they're struggling with the most when this campaign started. And so I my official title is political director, whatever that means, but I like to call myself Republican whisperer on this campaign. And so that's what I've been working on the past few months to try to push this through. And we are going to legalize recreational marijuana here in the state of Florida for everybody that's over 21 years old. And so there's a lot of misinformation out there coming from the other side of this campaign, coming from people up in Tallahassee that want to try to scare people for all kinds of different reasons on why they shouldn't vote for it. But at the end of the day, this is something that a lot of people agree on across the aisle, even if they don't want to come out publicly and talk about it. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, a lot of them smoke weed. That's the dirty secret. Republicans smoke weed too, and that's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah. You said it.
Yeah,
They are smoking weed. So yes.
yeah.
One of the things we talked about on yesterday, and I wanted to get your opinion on it, are what the law is going to be is uh, having legalized marijuana out in the public. And I was talking to one of my Republican friends about that, and he was saying that that is one of the things that he definitely will not like, that it's going to be out in the public.
Sure. So people understand that the campaign and the amendments now, we've changed the law. If people remember a few years back, they tried to do this again. It also include growing your own plants at home. Now we've got different rules in Florida where you has to be a single subject. And so it can't be two things. You can't attach school board races to the weed amendment. They both can't be together, all that kind of stuff that we used to have here in the state. And so this is singularly focused on legalizing it for adults, and the people that can sell it are people that have licenses to do so. And that is the only thing that it does if it gets into the Constitution. And then from there, again, a lot of the conversation, like you're talking about, it's the number one thing I hear from people, Republicans, Democrats, is I don't want to smell it. I don't want to smell it in the streets. I don't want to smell it when I'm driving in the car, when I'm walking my kids, all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of people who are saying like we can't do anything about it, which is why we've got Senator Joe Gruder's a good friend now, and he's already come out with Darrell Roussan, and they've both proposed legislation that says, look, we're going to ban public smoking, and as soon as we can get into legislative session, and if this passes, we're going to ban the public use of marijuana in streets, and that's what most people want. I mean, even people who are advocates for this don't want it up and down the sidewalks. And my personal belief is that these local officials, whether it's city of Tampa PD, Hillsborough, any of the major cities that you're watching this from in the state of Florida, they're going to be the ones that have to enforce this, and they're the ones that are going to be able to impose fines, things like that. If you're caught, smoking out in public, I mean, you're going to be able to do this in your home. You're not going to be able to do it while you drive. We still have all the DUI laws that are on there, on the books and everything. You can still get pulled over if you're smoking and driving, things like that. And so we have a lot of laws on the books that would prevent people from doing this, but what it comes down to is an enforcement. And the biggest criticism from other states that have passed it is that they have not enforced it. And we are very different here in Florida than California or Colorado.
Yeah. There's a lot of money involved in this amendment, and who's promoting this?
So you've got two big sides, and a lot of people think that this is something that is just people who like marijuana versus people who don't like marijuana, and that's not the case. And you've got obviously the people who are promoting Yes on 3. The big donor to the PAC is Trulieve. They're the market leader in the state of Florida, but it's also a bunch of other people who have marijuana licenses that around the state. There's actually 22 companies that have marijuana licenses, and a lot of them have donated to this PAC to try to get it passed for obvious reasons. And but the thing people kind of get confused right now is they think that the people fighting it are just don't want to see it done. But the reality is it's actually an entire another industry of synthetic marijuana, the hemp industry, where they're giving a lot of money to the Republican Party, to the governor, to keep the products you see on the shelves all around the state. So, if you walk into a smoke shop or you walk into a gas station, you'll see they have actual flower that looks like marijuana, smells like marijuana. They will tell you it's just like marijuana, but it's not. It's obviously altered just a little bit, molecule or two different, and then they're allowed to sell it. And there's an entire industry about that. It's very big. It's legal under the 2018 hemp bill or farm bill that Trump passed. And there's a huge business to this. There's a huge business to this, and they're the ones that are really funding the fight against this, as well as hedge funds that are shorting marijuana stocks. Like that. It's not an argument over marijuana anymore. It's an argument from big business.
Yeah, I definitely think that. And what do you think is actually going to change if it passes in the state? What is it going to look like?
I think that it's going to look. It's not going to be that much dissimilar than it is now. I mean, people think that, all of a sudden we're going to get flooded with marijuana. Well, and I hate to break it to anybody who doesn't think it's here already, but we have 1 in 17 people in this state, almost 1 million people have a medical marijuana card. That's a lot. There's 1 million medical marijuana cards. So they can already walk into a shop, and they're all over the state, obviously, and they can go get it legally if they have a medical card. Obviously, people know how the medical process works. It's not the most strict thing in the entire world. And then you've got the black market, obviously. I think that almost everybody that's listening to us can call somebody, call their friend, call their kid, call their nephew, and they could probably find it. And it's here. And the estimates, I think, are close to another 2 million or so people are regular users of it on the black market. And I challenge people to go stand in a gas station and just go see how many people buy backwoods instead of a case of beer. And if you run that experiment yourself, you'll start to get an idea of how popular it is. And it's already happening. So the difference is going to be is that if this is implemented correctly and taxes remain low and they don't put too much regulations on it, and they put enough regulation to keep the product safe, but they don't outprice the market, which is what's happened in California, where you walk in, maybe it costs $40, but for the same amount you can go on the street and get it for 20. That's why there's still a black market that exists in some of these states. And so it's going to be all about implementation. And the goal is, if we do it right, then the black market kind of dies off because the products are not safe. People are going to walk into a store and make sure that it's not laced with fentanyl. It's a real problem, or that they know what they're getting, or it's not synthetic marijuana. They want the real thing that's approved and gone through the process. So I don't think that it's going to be much different than it is now, except that there's going to be people that are, like, oh man, I can actually do this without the, worry about getting arrested.
Mm-hmm. In your home.
Yeah, and look, there, private businesses can do different things. And again, the biggest takeaway from this is that the amendment is just the amendment. This is going to go to the legislature up in Tallahassee. They have all of the ability in the world to either do this very well or do this very poorly. And so, if anybody has any problems, all my Republican colleagues that like to say that this is going to happen or this is going to happen, they have all of the ability in the world to control this afterwards. They could ban advertisements on billboards. They could, set aside, like we have liquor licenses, liquor stores. Oh, there can only be so many stores and within a certain amount of area here. They can set aside special, marijuana bars if they wanted to, like they do in other countries where people can go in. I mean, like there is no limit to what can be done and how the framework is going to be, but none of it's going to just magically happen. It's going to have to be legislated up in Tallahassee.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Um, Let me ask you, because I know that this has definitely been an issue in the African American community, is that when they're stopped by a police officer and they smell marijuana. How is that going to be? Is that something that will be addressed? Is that something that's going to be addressed in the law as well, and then trickle down to the police officers for, I don't know, training, or what is that going to look like?
Well, it's a really interesting point because if you're paying close attention to this campaign, all of the Florida sheriffs, have come out against this thing. And I won't, name anybody by name or call anybody out, but I've talked to quite a few people that are, law enforcement, and the main reason they don't want to do this, it's not they understand. Look, we don't want to waste our time, booking people, bringing them in over marijuana charges. They have so many more important things to do. They don't want to do that. Most of them will tell you that. But secretly behind closed doors, they tell you, well, we like to use it to search people's cars, which,
Mm-hmm.
as a libertarian Republican, I'm like, well, that brings up a whole nother Amendment 4 issue that we can talk about. But that's kind of the dirty secret that the law enforcement uses it as an easy excuse to search cars. And so, you know, I don't know how that changes because again, it's going to go to the legislature. I'm sure you'll hear from those law enforcement officers that are going to go and lobby in Tallahassee and say, look, we still need to be able to do this if we smell the odor and everything, even if it's not, it's possible DUI. I can't tell you what that looks like in practicality, but I can tell you that it'll be a conversation. And that's part of passing this amendment, is to force this on the desk up there and force them to have the conversation and force them to make laws around all of these things and revise all of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that leads me into the question of the criminal penalties that have already, over the years, that has just really put an X on the Black and Brown community with marijuana. So I just don't know what that picture is going to look like. It frightens me. I know many of my classmates, my family members, men that have been criminalized with marijuana already. So
Yeah.
that frightens me. The part that they will still be able to possibly smell marijuana while you're driving, and what the end results are going to continue to be.
Yeah. So, again, I unfortunately can't talk about how it's going to affect things that have already happened, because what is going to happen, I can kind of, put on a hat and a crystal ball and tell you how things are going to work out and going to give you a timeline for it. This passes in November. I think it's going to pass, by the way. And then it goes to the legislature in January. They've got through session to get through it. And then by May, they're going to have some sort of framework done. And part of that framework, you might start hearing different people and activists talking about, well, now it's legal. What about this XYZ person who has a charge that's just a marijuana charge? Like, are they gonna drop it now, right? And or they're currently booked for it or something like that, or it's on top of a charge that they already had. I can't tell you what's going to happen, because I think that's because there's steps to it. It's going to be 2, 3, 4, 5 steps down the road before we get to that. but the conversation is going to start, when they get to the legislature next year, if this passes, and then they're going to have to look back at it. And I guarantee there'll be a lot of people knocking on their doors, maybe the next session around, to now address this problem. Now it's legal. Now what do we do about previous sentences?
Yeah, yeah. I just do not see that being questioned. A lot of people will be questioning it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I am definitely me. I am for Amendment 3 because I have seen what it has done in our communities, and being able to get it and smoke it in the privacy of your home. I don't know what the rest of the law is going to look like. I guess we'll see that as time go on. Jake, is there anything else you want to add to the conversation on Amendment 3 that will be on the ballot on November 5th here in the state of Florida? And we want to make sure everyone get out and vote. Um, Vote, period. Just get out and vote, period. Definitely make sure you vote on Amendment 3.
Yeah, the only other thing I'll say, because you're going to start seeing the ads if you haven't already, and if you look into the issue, you'll see what the No on 3 campaign is saying, and what the governor's office is saying, and the GOP is saying. They're calling it a monopoly bill. And one of the things that we didn't touch on is that there are currently 22 licenses in the state of Florida that for allowing them to sell medical marijuana. Now, this amendment would allow all 22 of them to start selling. So that's already not a monopoly because you got 22 licenses. Their offices are also holding 20 licenses back for a long time now, that they could expand another 20 companies into this state to open the market further. And if they're really concerned about monopolies, they could walk out tomorrow and say, we're going to add 1,000 new licenses, and we're going to drop the fees that you have to pay every 2 years. They're just, the arguments against it are very dishonest. They're saying that they can't change the amendment afterwards. They can't legislate afterwards. And it's a monopoly, and it's just being paid for by this. And it's just, none of this is true. It's just not true. And, look, I'm sure you guys, everybody that's watching this, understands what happens up in Tallahassee. If you think the governor is just going to let this amendment just happen and no one's going to say anything, and the whole place is just going to get taken over, it's not going to happen. They're obviously going to legislate over this, and they're all going to argue over a framework for what this looks like. And I encourage people to get to be part of the conversation about it. And I encourage people to come to Tea and Conversations this weekend if they want to talk to me in person about it, because I'll be continuing to run around the state here and advocating for this cause. It's something that a lot of people ask me. They're like, what are you doing? I have a lot of GOP colleagues that are like, why are you helping out this cause here that's for marijuana and everything? And I try to tell people, I'm like, look, I'm very passionate about the Republican Party, but doesn't mean I like 100% of the things that they stand for. And I've been talking about for a decade. There are certain things that they've just been wrong on. And Donald Trump, we just got Donald Trump to come out and endorse this. And I've been making videos about this. I'm like, Donald Trump is the only politician in the entire world that can go and endorse something like this. And now all of a sudden the GOP, which has had this platform for 60 years, has to look themselves in the face and be like, oh God, now what do we do? Do we have to change the whole, war on drugs platform? And so Donald Trump just came out and did this. He threw a giant wrench in it. I think that it all helps him in the election too, if we want to go there. I think it helps a couple percentage points in a few different states. And it's an issue that, he's fundamentally altering the landscape of the GOP with this single issue. With a single tweet, he was able to do it. So it's been very interesting. This campaign is not what it seems. It's there's a lot to it, and I encourage people to look into it, and I encourage people to come talk to me if they're going to be here on Saturday.
Yes, absolutely. Jake definitely will be at Tea and Conversation on Saturday. And if you would like any more information, they can also find me on Facebook, because I've been watching your Facebook page as well. And I saw where you did have where former President Trump did endorse it. And I shared it on our Tea and Conversation page as well. I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening on Tea and Conversation. We have on with us Jake Hoffman. He is advocating for Amendment 3. And if you want any more information about that, join us this Saturday at Tea and Conversation at Al's Finger Licking Good Soul Food. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Jake.
Thanks, Candy.